All right, most of you know me as a business guy, as a mergers and acquisitions advisor, business broker, CEO guy, but I'm also a husband and a dad. And I'm also very passionate about personal finance and family finance. You know, too many couples end up fighting or divorced because of financial struggles. It's one of the biggest reasons that couples go on the rocks is fighting over finances. One of the concepts I wanted to share about that has been super clutch for my wife, Melissa, and myself is our wants list. This is an idea I had early in our marriage that I swear has kept so much friction out of our marriage. And I think I got introduced to this idea from one of Robert Kiyosaki's books. I love his early books. Like I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but then I also have read The Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Wealth, like a bunch of his other ones a long, long time ago, like when I was a newlywed. I've been married over 18 years now, and I read most of these books when I was either right before I got married or right after. So it's all kind of fuzzy. But I remember one of the things in one of the books was he said, you know, I teach my kids and my family when they want something, I never say the words, we can't afford it. He's just like, take that out of your vocabulary. Never say, we can't afford it, because that programs you into this poverty mindset that's like, it just makes you think limitations. You know, we're not good enough for that. And it's gonna, what you say and speak creates pathways, neural pathways in your head. And that really kind of dictates your future in a lot of ways. And you have a lot of power in your words, and you have to really watch it with the words that you say. And don't say that we're poor. Don't say that we can't afford it. We've been broke. Like we entered our marriage with nothing. Like we had a negative net worth. All I had was student loans and a paid off car that was worth maybe $5,000 or something, and some of my personal possessions. And I think Melissa was similar. And so when we put our assets together and when we got married, we had a negative net worth. We came into this thing with nothing. But I always was ambitious, and I wanted to be financially successful. I wanted to be financially free, and I wanted to live a life of abundance. And so I took some of these lessons to heart. And even when we didn't have two pennies to rub together, and we were very limited on our finances, I never used words that were, you know, like speaking poverty and limitations on our mindset over our life and our family. And that was just, all of that is just a rabbit trail. That's just a side note. What I really want to talk about is the wants list. But the wants list is this, okay? As you go along, as a married couple, you're going to have needs. Needs are the things that like you got to pay for every month. So like, you got to pay your mortgage or your rent so you don't get kicked out on the street, right? You got to pay your electric bill. You got to pay for groceries, all of that. And then you have some discretionary spending. So you'll have to budget discretionary categories too. This is a whole other topic about budgeting. But you have some say over the discretionary categories. There's mandatory categories that you can't really avoid. You know, that's like the electric bill, it is what it is. And all those are hard to change on a month to month. But clothing, you'll need to buy some clothing along the way, but you can drastically cut back and not buy clothes for a while if you need to. Those would be like discretionary categories. But then what do you do with the large discretionary purchases? This is where the wants list comes in. So that's when like one of you is like, you know what? We should do a pool. We should do a pool in the backyard. Or, you know what? I think we should do a big trip to Italy. You know what? And these are all things I've done. You know, so those are the things that end up on the wants list. I generally have defined it for us as a large one-time discretionary purchase in excess of $1,000. And I've increased that over the time. I think it used to be like 500, but as we've gotten a little more financially successful, my opinion is like, if there's something you want that's under $1,000, if you're making decent money, you could just kind of like work it into the discretionary categories of your normal budget, but you don't need like a new place to put that goal or dream. So What we have is anything either of us want that is a want, a one-time large discretionary purchase over $1,000. When one of us says, I want XYZ, I want XYZ, and it fits into that into that bucket. It's a want that's in excess of $1,000. Melissa and I both never say no. Ever. We never ever say no. And we never say we can't afford that. So what Kiyosaki taught in his book is you ask yourself, how can I afford that? So if you start asking like, how can I afford that? When can we afford that? Then it opens up the door of possibility, and it helps you have thinking that is abundance mindset is going to help you think of like, how can we achieve that goal? And so what we do is we have just a long list of anything we want. So I can come home one day and be like, I want to buy a jet, like a turbine aircraft. And it could be something so far out of reach that's like, we have no way to pay for that right at this moment. And if we're sticking by our rules as a married couple, Melissa's response would be like, that sounds great, honey. Add it to the list. And we just add it to the wants list. And then we only have one decision to make. Neither of us ever say no to each other. All we do is say, that's great, honey. Add it to the list. And we actually have an app. So we use an app called Trello, which is a board where you can just make a list, but then you can drag items up and down like a Kanban style board where you can just move an item up or move an item down on the list. And so we literally only have one decision to make. We can put as many things on our want list as we want with no limit on how many or how expensive they are. We can always say, hey, that's great. Put it on the list. And so all we have to decide is what's the next thing. That's the only thing we have to agree upon. And then how we work the wants list is about once a year. We'll probably revisit it maybe a mid-year, but it's usually the beginning of the year. We'll look through the wants list, which often is quite long, and we'll say, man, if we only have, we've got to make so much money to pay for our needs, and then we're going to give, so we give automatically as well, and we invest automatically as well. So we kind of have rules for giving and investing that we follow and for our personal budget. But then if we're able to make money that is in excess of what we need and our giving formula and our investing formula, if we have any more excess than that, all we have to do is look at the wants list, and the thing at the very top that we agree is the next thing we're going to do that's a large discretionary purchase, it's a no-brainer. We do it. And so every month, it's kind of a fun activity. If we spend less and make more, and we're able to cover our needs, and then I'm above a certain amount of liquidity. So I want to have a certain amount of money in my checking account at all times, just so I don't have to worry about timing on paying a bill. If you're in that situation, it sucks. I hated when I was in the situation of should I pay this bill or should I wait? Am I going to have enough money in my bank account or not? I want to have a few months of money in my bank account so that when bills hit, I just can pay them without concern for that. So once you've achieved that certain level of liquidity or an emergency fund level, then if you can look at your finances once a month. And let's say you want to have $25,000 liquid. And let's say you've got $30,000 at the end of the month. Well, then you've got a spread of $5,000. You go to the wants list. If the next thing on the wants list is under $5,000, instantly do it. And so that's all you got to do. And so that wants list is so fun, and it just means man, you've already covered paying your bills, you've already covered your necessities, your giving, your investing. That's on the stuff that's on autopilot. Then you get to have fun. And so, to me, the wants list is a marriage saver. It's such a stress saver to say, honey, that's great. Where do you want to put it on the list? And then once a year or maybe twice a year, you go to that long wants list and you just agree, hey, what's the thing we want most on this list? And let's just decide how to prioritize it. And I always have the next 1 to 5 like figured out. And then I just get to, and she can see it on her app, on her phone. And then when we're in a position, I'm kind of the one that's the main breadwinner and I'm doing the monthly budget. It's almost like a fun thing. I get to say, hey, guess what? We get to do that next thing. And we just kind of like make sure that both of our wants are considered. And, you know, sometimes that's taking turns. You know, there's things that she wants I could care less about. You know, like she loves making our home really beautiful and aesthetic and wants to buy furnishings and make things just beautiful. I actually do love it, but I'm a typical guy where if like I didn't have her in my life, my house would probably be really lame looking and sparse and Spartan, and I would spend all my money on like adventures and airplanes and, you know, whatever, you know, fun stuff I'm into, and I neglect my home. And so we're just kind of making sure there's a balance between both of our wants, and we just work our way down that wants list top to bottom. So if you're married and you're wondering, how do I don't want to be the bad guy that's always telling my wife no. And you don't want your wife to be the bad guy that's always telling you no. And, you know, Dave Ramsey says that a saver and a spender usually marry. And then like that can be a problem for the relationship if the saver is always telling the spender, no, 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 no. It just means like pent up frustration is going to happen. God made a cosmic joke on me and Melissa in putting 2 spenders together. So like we're both are like, let it rip. Let's live life to the full. And we have no problem spending money, and so we have to think really hard about putting guardrails around our personal finances. And really, we had to kind of gamify it and put a lot of systems around it to make sure that we don't neglect our necessities, our giving, our investing, and that we are being smart about what we say yes to that's on the wants list. And the wants list is a critical piece of this. And really is like a safety net. So we can't just impulsively blow a big spending, because that's a violation of our commitment to each other, that we can get anything we want for any price. We just have to agree on what's the next one in order, and we only do it after we take care of the necessities and the other higher priorities first. Then we just grab the wants in order. So think about that. Make your own version of that. If you got a tip or trick of like a way that you do it that's different than mine, drop it in the comments. Or if you have any questions about just how we practically walk it out, want any more examples, drop it in the comment. I'll do my best to answer any questions about the wants list. But the wants list is like such a ninja trick that I don't see anybody else, even that's good budgeters, almost nobody has this little trick, and that little freaking wants list will save so much strain and stress and will let you always say yes, never be the bad guy, and it just brings you together to say, let's make this fun. You know, like let's make spending money on things we want that are big one-time purchases, let's make it fun without violating our core values and without putting the cart before the horse or doing it when we can't afford it because we're emotional about it. Like, let's just be logical about it. Let's be agreeable about it. We'll never tell each other no, and that's what the wants list does. I hope this helps. Got any questions, let me know. We'll talk to you later.